Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is gonna be my Walking Dead episode 3 video. We're all like, making the oh god face. So make sure you watch the episode. Just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. I know it's not much consolation just because everyone's freaking out so much, but there is a new round of the giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. It's just a $20 Amazon gift card. If you win, you can use it to pay for your therapy. So let's just go ahead and get started with it. Starting with top 5 WTF. Number 5. The super herd splits in half with Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham leading the pack ahead, although Rick kind of splits off too to help with the first half. The second half is heading towards Alexandria. If you remember the gunshots they heard in the episode, this is essentially happening in the same time frame as last week's episode. I guess you can't blame them too much for wanting to get as much mileage out of the super herd as possible. Like, it's not going to be a 2-episode open and close matter. But the most notable thing in this opening scene is all these safe zone randos, just like people you've never seen before, clearly going to be the walker bait in the episode. Usually when there's a situation like this, you can kind of tell who's going to die first based on who's the biggest asshole, who is the least helpful, who runs off on their own, like who's selfish. The message here is like, don't be selfish when shit hits the fan because you're going to die first. Which is why I think Daryl is kind of safe, because at the end of the episode, instead of doing the selfish thing and going back to the safe zone, he turns around, goes back to help Sasha and Abraham. On to number 4, Michonne's group heads into the pet store and they develop a plan to deal with the second half of the super PAC. Really, the whole episode, I think, is about this. It's about what happens to Michonne's group, because in each episode, it's like the group keeps splitting. Because in the first episode, the A team splits the group in half, like the entire safe zone in half, and goes to deal with the super PAC. The B team in episode 2 has to deal with the wolves. Then in episode 3, the A team splits in half. So it's like in each successive episode, the groups have been getting smaller and smaller. Just more spring cleaning for the show, like getting rid of a bunch of randos just to let you know that there are still threats. It wouldn't be The Walking Dead if they didn't cast a bunch of temporary randos so that they could kill them off in the same episode. Betsy's husband here is pretty sympathetic. He was like the least asshole of all the randos. And Heath here, they kind of use this pet store moment to show you that Heath is a good person. He's not like the douchebags from the end of season 5. He's not like Nick, who's a reformed asshole, but still kind of floating on the edge of sanity. This is all set up for Heath's character. Like, they really want you to like him. I think I said in last week's video, he's one of the new season regulars along with Denise Cloyd, who's like the new doctor. Both characters from the comics, so this is a lot of Heath's setup happening here. And it's also a chance for Michonne to remember how she used to be. It really was this really touching speech about how Betsy saved that safe zone person. Like, I was dead. She found me. She made me better than I was before. And Michonne is thinking the same thing about Rick and the survivors. She was essentially, she was dead to the world. She had given up. And then Rick gave her new purpose. Of course, as they run out of the store, as predicted, the randos that had gotten like hurt or hobbled early on end up dying off. Literally, the worst thing that could happen to you as you're running away from the super herd is to hurt your leg or get a cut somewhere like Rick. That's a big WTF too we can talk about. On to number 3. Rick cuts his hand as he's running for the RV. So everyone's wondering here, does this mean he's going to lose his hand? Here's the deal. So getting cut and getting bitten are two different things. One is worse than the other. If you get bit, if it's not too bad, they can heal you, but it's still worse than getting a cut. And Rick got cut by his knife. So the message is, as long as he keeps it relatively clean and gets back to the safe zone within like an episode or 2, he should be okay, depending on the timeline. They really are compressing time in these episodes. Like between the end of episode 1 and now, it's been really only just like an hour. Like it's almost the same hour we've been seeing from different perspectives. So Rick still has some time to get back and fix his hand. Like he doesn't have to lose it. On to number 2 though, Rick gets stuck in the RV, assaulted by wolves, but looks like he can't start it in time to escape the super herd. This is the real Rick WTF to end on, because we just saw what looked like Glenn dying. So it's like, does this mean that Rick is gonna die too? If they can kill an A-list cast member, they could totally kill another one. Now, as crappy as things look, they're not quite as bad as they were for Glenn. Like if you watch Game of Thrones, I think it was the end of season 3 with that Misa moment where the camera zoomed out with all those people lifting Daenerys up. That's what it looked like when Glenn died. He was completely surrounded 360 degrees. Rick is just being assaulted from one side of the RV, so as long as he either bails out the other side or starts the RV, he should be fine. I feel like he's going to be okay. They probably cut his hand, took him to the edge of death so many times just to make you question whether or not he'd survive. I don't think they would have done that so many times if they weren't going to save him. But of course, on my number 1 WTF moment, it looks like Glenn just got his guts ripped out after Nicholas shot himself. I don't know about you guys, but usually in situations like that, my brain shuts down just a little bit. It goes into survival mode and I try to start rationalizing it like, oh, okay, he didn't die because X, Y, Z. Like you try to start jumping through the mental hoops that it takes to make Glenn survive. Then after you can't do that, you just start to go, oh, Jesus, and start to like freak out all over the place. Who's gonna deliver all the pizza now, dumbass? That was really a great way to sign off. That was actually like the first line that they had to each other when they first met, way, way back. And I think, I think my favorite Glenn moment was at the end of that arc where he's just driving out of Atlanta screaming, hell yeah! Having sex with Maggie, of course, giant win, but I feel like Glenn roaring as he was driving away from Atlanta was a bigger reaffirmation. You guys let me know in the comments, what is your favorite all-time Glenn moment? And did you try to rationalize his death? Like, do you think he's actually dead? I do kind of think that he is, but it's totally possible that the guts you see being pulled out belong to Nicholas, like as if Nicholas landed on top of him. The other thing too that I thought might end up happening is just because Glenn had turned around to go back to the safe zone, just because he was so worried about everyone, Rick saw the baby food. I felt like he was just gonna lose his shit and turn right around. But remember, the big message in the episode is you do the selfish thing, you make the selfish choice, you're gonna die. Everybody that made selfish choices ended up dying. And Nick's selfish choice, like committing suicide, that even got Glenn killed, or at least looks like it got Glenn killed. So depending on the move that Rick makes at the beginning of next week's episode, will determine what ends up happening to his hand, I think. I don't think that he's going to lose his hand, but you could totally argue either way. I will say stylistically, I didn't like this episode quite as much as the other two episodes. I feel like last week was a more rewarding episode. Like it was like a bigger reaffirmation. Like everyone was like screaming hell yeah in the air just because Carol was such a badass and Morgan was such a Jedi. But this week was still an amazing episode, even if I was a little disappointed in the way they let Glenn die. If you are really freaked out about the fact that they haven't confirmed that Glenn is dead, they'll definitely answer that definitively next week. Like you'll find out what happened to Rick, we'll find out what happened to Glenn. This is like the really hard thing that the show has to do now. It's in its 6th season, so it's like, how do you let people know that there are still threats? How do you make them still poop their pants without killing the main cast members? I don't even know if that's possible anymore. Like every once in a while, you do have to kill someone off. Tyrese is a good example of that. He started to get a little more overpowered. He started to get a little bit more zen. So it's like, okay, he's too powerful. We have to kill him. I wouldn't say that Glenn is overpowered though, but what is this going to do to Maggie? They did say that she was going to get a much bigger arc this year through Denise as a bit of an authority figure. Most of my favorite Maggie moments are Maggie being crazy. So of course, if Glenn is dead, she's going to lose her shit. But I think that's a really interesting direction to take the character. Usually it's actors that get really excited about that. Like it gets really boring when everything is all right all the time, when everything is just like rosy fields. It's not a melodrama, it's not Pride and Prejudice and zombies. But Michonne wiping that message off of her arm, "You're getting home," is very telling. You could take that in the literal way because of all the people that died, like they are literally not getting back to the safe zone. And you could take it as a metaphor, because as they walk up to the safe zone, they see like all the damage that the wolves have done. So literally their home has been broken. You can go back to the place where you live, but you can't go home. It's not home anymore. It's not the home that you remember. You can't go back to that. But if there's anything to feel good about, I feel like it's this moment where Daryl rides back to Abraham and Sasha. As sad as the music was at the end of the episode, it was the least sad here with this big, epic wide shot. So let's all scream internally and talk about Glenn in the comments. Everybody just let me know. Like, you could still argue either way, but it definitely looks like he is dead. The interesting thing, though, is that he didn't go on Talking Dead. I think that's because he's either shooting something, he was either unavailable, or they purposefully don't want to confirm whether or not he's dead. Congratulations to Jimmy Woo. You win last week's Walking Dead giveaway. It's a $20 Amazon gift card. Be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact info. Feel free to use it towards your therapy bill. So while you guys continue to scream, you can click here for all my other Walking Dead videos, and you can click here for the Jessica Jones trailer, which will make you cry for a completely different reason. David Tennant will totally make you cry. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, let's high five. Go hug somebody you love. I'll see you tomorrow.